What's going on, guys? Billy here, and if you've been around on my channel for the past few years, you'll know that I've been a huge fan of the Phantom 4 Pro. It was undoubtedly my favorite drone because it was the perfect blend of portability and power. I took this drone so many different places and captured so many great memories with it. It's what helped me start this channel and ultimately what helped me get better at flying drones. It was a drone that I could recommend to anyone looking to start taking some serious aerial photos and videos. Now, you guys are probably wondering why I'm making a video on the Phantom 4 Pro. You're probably thinking that this video topic is coming out of left field, and I don't blame you because I haven't made a video on this drone in well over a year. The last time I talked about the Phantom 4 Pro is probably right after I got it fixed. That was like my first flight after I finally got the leg fixed on my drone, and ever since then, it's just been collecting dust over on my shelf. Now, the reason I haven't really covered this drone is because for the longest time, I thought that DJI was going to be totally discontinuing the Phantom line of drones. It kind of seemed that way. The biggest telltale sign was the fact that it was out of stock on their website for so long, but just recently they reintroduced their Phantom 4 Pro version 2.0. And it kind of made me wonder, why would you want to buy a Phantom 4 Pro in today's era of drones right now in the middle of 2020? The biggest reason behind this is because of the Mavic line of drones, the Mavic 2 Pro, right? If I move my iPad and I put them side by side, the Mavic 2 Pro is like 1/4 the size of the Phantom 4 Pro, and it actually offers better specs, at least in most departments. I would say that overall, the Mavic 2 Pro is the better all-around drone, and they're pretty much going for the same exact price online. It just doesn't really make sense to me. So I really wanted to avoid turning this video into an all-out comparison between the Phantom 4 Pro and the Mavic 2 Pro, but it's hard not to at least set a basis to get an understanding of the differences and similarities between what both of these drones offers. Now, when you think of what makes up a good drone, these here are probably the first things that you look at: the price, the flight time, the transmission system, the range, and the camera, all of which are basically identical all the way down the list. I think that the Mavic 2 Pro edges out the Phantom 4 Pro by just a little bit in terms of the on-paper specs, but once we begin to look at some off-paper things, some things that make these drones different, you're probably going to generally understand why I favor the Mavic 2 Pro over the Phantom 4 Pro. Now, moving away from the numbers and moving away from the on-paper specs, I want to cover what makes both of these drones different despite being priced similarly at $1,599 at the time of recording this video. So I figure we start with the newcomer on the block, the Mavic 2 Pro. I say the newcomer on the block despite this drone being almost over 2 years old. But what does the Mavic 2 Pro have over the Phantom 4 Pro? Again, despite being priced similarly. So the first one is very obvious. It's the size. This drone is so much smaller in every aspect. Like I said, it's about 1/4 of the size when folded up ready for travel, but when you extend the legs, when you unfold the drone, it then pretty much gets the same wingspan as the Phantom 4 Pro. To me, it doesn't matter what the size of the drone is when it's up in the air. In fact, the bigger the better, so that I can actually look up and see the drone when I'm flying around. But when I'm traveling, I want the smallest drone possible, and the Mavic 2 Pro gives me that as it can fold up. Now, moving on to the rest of the things that separate the Mavic 2 Pro from the Phantom 4 Pro. The Mavic 2 Pro has got a top infrared sensor that the Phantom 4 Pro lacks, so the Mavic 2 Pro has got true omnidirectional obstacle avoidance. The Mavic 2 Pro also has 8 GB of internal storage that definitely comes in handy when you're in a pinch and you run out of space on your SD card, or if you just straight up forget your SD card at home. That's happened to me way too many times. Also, the Mavic 2 Pro has got 2 auxiliary LEDs built into the bottom of the drone, so you can actually use them for spotting the drone in low light scenarios, and it also aids the sensors in seeing the ground when landing in those low light scenarios. Now, this one might be more subjective, but I think the Mavic 2 Pro is quieter when in flight, and both of them actually still feature the same low noise propeller design, but in my opinion, the pitch of the Mavic 2 Pro when flying is more tolerable to deal with, but typically you've got the drone far away from you. It's really not all that big of a deal, and the Phantom 4 Pro version 2.0 with those low noise props is still plenty quiet. Now, the final thing that really separates both of these drones for me, and I think it's the biggest deal besides both of them being drastically different sizes, is that the Mavic 2 Pro is just newer. It's got more flight features, it's got newer software, it's got an overall better flight characteristic. This drone is a joy to fly, and I'm not saying that the Phantom 4 Pro is not a joy to fly. I'm not saying that this drone flies bad in any way, but the Mavic 2 Pro has just set the standard. It's raised the bar over the Phantom 4 Pro, and now that I've flown the Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic 2 Zoom, they share the same airframe, the Phantom 4 Pro seems a little bit clunky. funky. Now, if you guys were keeping track, that is 7 differences, 7 things that the Mavic 2 Pro can do better than the Phantom 4 Pro. And when we look at the Phantom 4 Pro, it does only 3 things better than the Mavic 2 Pro. It can shoot 4K video at 60 frames per second, it's got a mechanical shutter, and it feels just a little bit more powerful, and that's it. Now, when I talk about more powerful, I feel like this drone can reach its top speed better. I feel like it could reach that 45 mile per hour speed quicker than the Mavic 2 Pro can. Also, this drone can ascend and descend faster than the Mavic 2 Pro can. This is at around 9 miles an hour, and the Mavic 2 Pro is capped at, if I can remember correctly, 6.5 miles an hour. So there is kind of a drastic difference in the power that you get with the Phantom 4 Pro. But when you look at some of the differences and some of the features that the Mavic 2 Pro can offer, you almost don't even care that this drone is just a little bit more powerful. Now, as a sort of transition into wrapping this video up, I just want to make it clear that I'm not trashing the Phantom 4 Pro in any way. I think that this drone is still more than capable of getting any sort of task done. Whether you're flying for fun, you want to shoot some great photos and videos on a vacation or to share on social media, or if you're using this drone for commercial purposes, for shooting real estate, construction, mapping, agriculture, any of the above, the Phantom 4 Pro is an absolute great choice. So if you've got this drone, don't think that you're missing out because you don't have a Mavic 2 Pro. They're both very similar drones, but when you look at it from the perspective of which one you should buy right now in 2020 between both of these drones costing the same, it's a no-brainer to buy the Mavic 2 Pro. It has so many things going for it, and it comes in a smaller package than the Phantom 4 Pro. I mean, I almost forgot how big this drone was after carrying around the Mavic 2 Pro for so long. It almost seems like it's counterintuitive to be carrying around the Phantom 4 Pro when you can carry around the Mavic 2 Pro. Now, here's something funny I wanted to throw in the beginning of the video, and I kind of forgot to discuss it. It's a timeline that DJI seems to be following. Now, just like phone releases, how they have their like scheduled releases, you know, iPhones always come out towards the end of the year, Samsung's come out towards the beginning of the year, and that pretty much follows year after year after year. The DJI doesn't have a set schedule for when they release their drones. Nobody can predict when the next drone is coming out. Sometimes it could be half a year, sometimes it could be 2 years, sometimes it could be 3 years. They really don't have a set product cycle, but I have noticed a bit of a pattern. So the Phantom 4 Standard came out, and then they shrunk that down into the Mavic Pro, and they offered all the same specs that Phantom 4 did in the original Mavic Pro, and then they shrunk that down even further into the Mavic Air, and they obviously reduced the price as it went down, but generally all of those drones in that generation had relatively the same specs. Now, if we look at when the Phantom 4 Pro came out, they did the same thing with the Mavic 2 Pro. The Mavic 2 Pro came out, has a lot of the same specs. It's offered at relatively the same price. There are a couple of upgrades thrown into the body, but they then came out with the Mavic Air 2 that makes me almost wonder why the Mavic 2 Pro is even still on the market, because it offers such a great value in a drone. It offers a lot of the same things except for, like, say, the sensor size you get in these drones in a much smaller package. So it goes Phantom, Mavic Pro, and then the Mavic Air. And again, it's going Phantom 4 Pro, Mavic 2 Pro, Mavic Air 2. I don't know, that's something interesting I figured I'd point out, but at the end of the day, both of these drones costing $15.99, it just doesn't make sense to buy the Phantom 4 Pro, and that's why here in 2020, I would skip this great drone. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you're thinking about both of these drones compared side by side. I know that I did some comparisons in the beginning of, I guess, the life cycle of the Mavic 2 Pro, and I know that I said I wouldn't turn this video into comparison, even though it turned into one big old comparison. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace.